We are heading for a three-way title battle at the final race of the season. But before we get there, we have to talk about the Qatar Grand Prix. We're going to break it down in its entirety in just a minute. Before we do, though, remember to like and subscribe. And, of course, a huge shout-out to our members, Dakota, The Joyous Jane, Rowan Myers, Steven Strudel, Michael Johnson, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Philip Duganzik, Andy Jones, Sarah Jowett, Facetious Badger, and The Baked Toast. If you want to become a member, you can click the link in the description down below. Let's talk through this. My lights are completely set up wrong. There we go. That's a bit better. Who cares at this point? Let's go back to the start of this race. We have second place in the championship, Oscar Piastri on pole position. It is World Championship leader Lando Norris alongside him in second. A front row lockout for the McLaren team. Max Verstappen is third in the championship and starts the race in third. There is a few changes to the grid. Firstly, a 5-place grid penalty for Bortoletto after the collision with Stroll in Las Vegas pushes him down to 19th. And Franco Colapinto, for the second time this weekend, starts the race from the pit lane. Max Verstappen had changed his power units overnight, but he went back to a previously used power unit, so has no penalty for there. Important thing to remember, vitally important, McLaren strategy team, there's a 25-lap limit on tyres, and as for the tyres, on the soft tyres were Hulk and Hamilton, on the hard tyres were Albon and Colapinto, everyone else starting on the mediums, and as the race gets going, it's a great start for Max Verstappen, who jumps up to second place immediately. As Lando Norris falls to third, Oscar Piastri pulls away in the lead, continuing what had been perfect form up until this point. The big loser on the start, though, was George Russell, who fell from 7th to 4th. The big gainer, Lewis Hamilton, going up 3 places up to 14th. Then, on lap 7, this is when everything changed, because there was a collision between Pierre Gasly and Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg is out, and the safety car is out. Max Verstappen is the first to pit. I could list everyone who also pit on this lap. It's easier to list those who didn't. It was Piastri, Norris, and Ocon were the only ones to stay out. A lap later, Ocon actually pit. That meant that after 7 laps and after the pit stops had gone through, our top 3 were Oscar Piastri on old tyres, Lando Norris on old tyres, and Max Verstappen on fresh, new, lovely medium tyres. This is possibly a move here from the McLaren strategy team that will stop them from becoming world champions. This is the move that cost them from winning the race today. This is the move that cost them from having 2 cars on the podium today. This is the move that has cost them a hell of a lot of points to Max Verstappen today. No idea what they were thinking. They said on the radio, don't worry, Max Verstappen's flexibility is now gone because he now had to pit every 25 laps with the rules being as they were. But the ideal strategy before we even started the race was pit on lap 7, then pit every 25 laps. The safety car just came along with the perfect strategy. And what it meant here was that McLaren's had to push like hell to try and create a gap to pit into, which was never, ever going to happen. From lap 7 onwards, the McLarens were never going to win this race unless there was an engine failure for those in front of them. Completely and utterly bottled from the McLaren team. And you know what? It could have been a hell of a lot worse. They were quite lucky that Fernando Alonso was on a Sunday drive at one point in this race. Otherwise, it could have been a hell of a lot worse for him. Because what we've seen consistently through this weekend in the F1 and in the F2 as well, it is very, very, very difficult to overtake here. Track position is everything. And in this one choice, they elected to give track position away twice. Madness from McLaren. Absolute madness. Meanwhile, there's a 5-second penalty for Ocon, because of course there is. He got it for a jump start. looked very shaky, to be honest. Looked a lot like the Kimi one from last weekend, where it doesn't really look like he jump-started, but apparently he did. So, safety car ends on lap 11, and Piastri goes very early and gets a really good jump on Norris there, but both McLarens really, really pushing at this point to try and just create a gap. Piastri was 2 seconds ahead of Norris, then Norris was about 4 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen by lap 15, so that's 4 laps after the safety car had come in. The issue for them then was they were pushing like mad to try and create this gap. Max wasn't really pushing at this point, but that gap between Norris and Max never really went over 4.5 seconds. So that gap they were trying to create never really came. Then they also had the bigger issue of pitting into a gap, because they have 18 cars behind them who have all pit, and we're all going for them. Like I said, thank God for Fernando Alonso, who, much like in Monaco, was just holding up an entire queue of people and created a gap for the McLarens to pit into. That being said, it was incredibly close that they came into that gap. If McLaren had delivered a McLaren pit stop that we've known that they can do, which is just a disaster, their entire race would have been over. They had 1% hope. If their pit stop had been 1 second slower, they would have had 0% hope. It was a disaster from McLaren. Piastri pits from the lead. He has a 3.1 second stop, so not even that great. He comes out in 5th. A lap later, Norris now pits from the lead. 2.2 seconds for him. He comes out in 5th, just ahead of Alonso. Very, very, very close. Verstappen now leads the race. There's a 5-second penalty for Stroll for speeding in the pit lane. Well done, Stroll. A great move from Piastri on Antonelli to cut back through the field for P3 on lap 30. But we go to Lando Norris, and he was not able to get past Antonelli at this point. Then on lap 33, as per the 25-lap rules, everyone pits. Verstappen pits from the lead. He comes out in 3rd, but the most important thing, in 3rd, but 3.4 seconds behind Lando Norris, who hadn't pit yet. So Lando has to pit, so the thing keeps on popping up on the screen. You're going to lose 26 seconds if you pit. Verstappen, 3.5 seconds behind him. So just handing Red Bull and Max Verstappen as many points as they like. At this point, everyone pits, but Verstappen looked like an unsafe release for George Russell, but he looked to get away with it somehow. Behrman ran over something during his stop, lost a load of time, came out in 18th place, then got a 10-second stop-and-go penalty on top of that. He just completely destroyed his race in that one pit stop there. Lando Norris seems to be struggling at this point. Big snap of oversteer for him. Thinks he has damage as well, and Verstappen is now gaining on him. Was within 2 seconds by lap 39. By lap 42, Max had DRS on Norris. Then the McLaren team still don't really know what they're going to do. I think the initial plan for them was to just go until their 25-lap limit, then pit for the softs and just try and push until the end. But they abandoned that plan at this point. Piastri pits on lap 43 from the lead, has a 1.8 second stop, comes out in 3rd place, but he is 17.4 seconds behind Max Verstappen at that point, with not many laps to go. Norris then pits 2 laps later. He has a 2.7 second stop and comes out in 5th. Verstappen at this point is told, "You are free to go until the end, my friend." And off he goes, pushing until the end. Piastri does get a bit of time on him, but nowhere near the time that he needed. I think he was still like 12, 13 seconds behind at the end. Norris now catches the back of Kimi Antonelli on lap 50, but just can't pass him. Hajar has a puncture on lap 56 of 57, and he was in, I think, 6th or 7th place, so was on to score some good points, but loses that at the end. And then on lap 57, Antonelli has a huge snap of oversteer, goes wide, lets Norris through for P4 to gain some vital points in this championship battle. But the thing for me here, when you're comparing Norris and Piastri here, and I think Piastri, you've got to admit, was fully back to his best this weekend. That's what we saw from Piastri as someone really... This is the Piastri that we've known for most of this season, not the Piastri of the last few races. And, you know, it kind of brings me back to the majority of this season, especially the early part of this season, when we're seeing Piastri and Norris and how they fight differently. And you see Piastri was able to take that chance and take that dive, and it was a beautiful move to get past Antonelli, whereas Norris wasn't. Norris got stuck. Norris had to wait for Antonelli to make a mistake to gain those points. And for me, that is the difference between a Piastri and between a Norris when they're both on their best form. What we've seen lately from Piastri has been a disaster, and he has cost himself the championship. There's no doubt about that. I don't think he's in it at all. He would need a miracle next week to win this championship. But when Piastri is on the top of his game and Norris is on the top of the game, the main difference for me between the two of them is Piastri will take that chance and take that dive and overtake Kimi Antonelli. Norris won't. And Norris cost himself points here, because if he'd be able to get past Antonelli, Sainz was struggling at the end, he would have been able to get past him as well, he would have been third. But ultimately, he wasn't. He should have been fifth, he did finish fourth. But as we cross the line, it is Max Verstappen who wins the race and puts himself into second place in the championship, 12 points behind Lando Norris, going into the final race of the year. Oscar Piastri finishes in P2, giving himself his first podium since the Italian Grand Prix, ending this awful run of form that he has been on. But in third, it's Carlos Sainz, his second Williams podium, the second podium of the season. A great job for him. He was stressing out towards the end, but he got it done. Lando Norris is in P4, so losing quite a few points for him here on the day that he could have become world champion. Then in fifth, Kimi Antonelli threw away fourth place at the end, was really struggling on those tyres. Norris got past him, and then I think in the space of a lap, Norris gained about 4 or 5 seconds on him. So he was really, really struggling. George Russell was in sixth, a disaster start for him. Saw him fall down to seventh, and then he had to try and climb that back. But I believe that is now 4 races in a row that Kimi Antonelli has beaten George Russell. I'm going to have to just quickly double check that, but I think that is correct, because it was Mexico, he beat him, Brazil, he beat him. Oh, he didn't beat him in Las Vegas, so it's 3 of the last 4 races Kimi Antonelli has beaten George Russell, which is a wonderful thing to see for Kimi Antonelli and his future in Formula 1. We have Fernando Alonso in P7, some really good points for Aston Martin. I think they're now back in front of Haas in the championship. And, you know, Fernando Alonso as well, the McLaren lads can thank Alonso that their weekend didn't go even worse, because his Sunday driving was what gave him a lovely little gap to pit into. Charles Leclerc, I think, deserves a round of applause in P8, because that Ferrari has been dreadful this weekend, and he got some points out of it, so congratulations to him. Liam Lawson in 9th gets 2 points for himself there, and then Yuki Tsunoda can thank Isaac Hajar for the puncture, because he's in P10, he gets 1 point. Albon again just misses out in P11. Lewis Hamilton is 12th, Bortoleto in 13th, Colapinto 14th, Ocon 15th, Gasly is in 16th after the collision and damage at the start of the race. Lance Stroll was 17th, then Isaac Hajar was looking on for a good points finish. He finishes in 18th place. Then 2 DNFs on the day, Ollie Behrman and Nico Hulkenberg. But the headline from this race, the title goes to Abu Dhabi, our final race of the season next weekend. Lando Norris is still the World Championship leader. In second place is Max Verstappen. He's 12 points behind. Oscar Piastri is in third. He is 16 points behind. So, if Max Verstappen wins in Abu Dhabi, all Lando Norris has to do is get on the podium and he will be world champion. If Lando Norris finishes 4th or lower and Max wins, Max is a 5-time champion of the world. All 3 drivers are on 7 wins heading into this race, so if it went to count back, whoever won would be world champion. For the first time since 2010, we have more than 2 drivers fighting for the title on the final race. Piastri needs a miracle. Maybe Max does as well. It's in the hands of McLaren and Lando Norris, but it was in the hands of McLaren and Lando Norris today, and they threw it away. We'll be back next week to find out who's going to win this World Championship. We're back tomorrow for all things driver ratings. New video on Tuesday looking at every King of the Streets ever updated for 2025. Wednesday Fun Club to come. Oh my goodness, the season is heating up and heating up and heating up, It was always going to go to the final race, wasn't it? It just felt like it. It just felt like that was going to happen. And anything can happen in Abu Dhabi. We shall wait and see. Will McLaren bottle it again? Can Max Verstappen win this World Championship? This time next weekend, we will know. And I'll be there to talk to you about it all. Until then, have a good one. Goodbye.